Hello, everybody. A Thursday night edition of the update here, or the whatever we call it. You know, it's funny, and I'm chatting here while I know people are tuning in. People have called it a podcast, an update. There's been all kinds of names for it. So I guess, it's the update. Been doing this a long time now, since the beginning of COVID. So tonight, I want to talk. Today, the reason I'm doing this on an off night is because I just posted, if you've noticed, a link to a press conference today that talked about COVID in a way that I don't think has been talked. It was delivered in a way that's never been delivered like that before, and I think that it's important, and I'm going to talk about that right now. Basically, what that conversation was all the heads of the major health providers in the state. And at 5 o'clock tonight, I was on a call with local legislators with my district, Northern Michigan, McLaren and Munson healthcare people, to talk about specifically my district and the North and the conversation. And it's interesting. What we need to do. So what happened was, one of the things that one of the guys said today I thought was huge. My perception is, it's like when you ask somebody to do something, or you tell someone to do something, you can get different responses, right? And I believe early on, the state, as I said, everybody was in agreement. Nobody knew what was happening. Everybody hunkered down. But then after a while, it became more of a tell you what to do than an ask. And I don't want to get overly political here or pick on the governor, which I still don't believe her response has been good enough. I think her response has been too much of a tell as opposed to an ask. And I think that her response has not been balanced. But now let's put all of that aside for just a minute. Okay? Mask, no mask. Et cetera, et cetera. Somebody on here is going to say, I'm not going to wear a mask. You can't tell me. No mandates, Jack. It's on there all the time. What I am going to do here today is what the doctors in this video did today. They aren't telling you anything. They're not telling you anything. They're asking you. And today is the day I believe we can turn our COVID response around, because these medical people aren't telling us anything. They're asking us. And that's what I'm going to do here tonight. I am going to try and tell you what they said. And I'm going to let you know what they said. All right? These are things that we cannot argue. They are not debatable. They are fact. All the hospitals in the state are seeing massive upticks in patients. We'll get to some of the stats in a minute, but this is a fact. You can argue it or not. You can't. It's a fact. Here's the thing, though, and this was something that hadn't been said this way before. It was, you know what? Back in the spring, we were going on adrenaline. We were working, we were going. And in most emergencies, that's what happens. The tornado hits, whatever, and you go for a certain amount of time, and then you're out of it. Whew. But COVID's been 8 months. And our hospital workers are exhausted. They're fatigued. And so we as a community can help them by being careful, But before I get to the steps, let me go through some of the other things that I heard today. Healthcare leaders, all the hospitals are filling up. To give you just in Munson, which is in my district, you got to remember, hospitals, they aren't just massive buildings with beds per se, right? There's only so many. But back in April, Munson had about 30 patients, COVID patients. As of today, they had 67. That's a lot. Now, people will say, well, they're not on ventilators, Jack, they're not on this, they're not on that. That's true. Some of them are, but they're not all on ventilators. But they're still sick, all right? Average stay is about 4 to 5 days. And we're seeing not just the 70s and 80s, but we're seeing this hit even people more into their 50s. They are seeing less death, but people are still very sick. And again, when you talk about the numbers of people in hospitals, the numbers have gone up. Munson, I'm using Munson because they gave me this number. As of today, they have 200 staff who are sick, out sick, or waiting to be tested. That's a lot of people. So we need to be careful not to overrun our hospitals. Jack, there are not that many in the hospitals. Well, think about this. One of the other things that these doctors said was, back in the spring, when we shut everything down and we stopped elective surgeries, there were problems with that. Because now when they did get back to elective surgeries or elective procedures, maybe is a better way to say it, people were coming in sicker because they had been neglecting it for so long. So we don't want to have to get to a point where we stop elective and other type of procedures. We don't want that. So we need very, very much to keep the rate down in our hospitals, all right? You're right. Somebody might get COVID and never make it to the hospital. The problem is we are seeing the infection rate go up. These are can't be debated. It's happening. Okay? And remember, if you're just joining me, one of the things I heard today that I think has changed the COVID discussion is these doctors and these hospital people asked. They didn't tell. And you know how human nature is. When you tell some people to do something, they don't want to do it. This is an ask. And I think that's what we've been missing all along. So let me continue. These doctors, if you watch the video that I posted, were asked, well, should we go to another lockdown? And the universal answer was, no, we don't want a lockdown because of all the health problems and all the economic problems that happen. And when we see some of these other countries going to lockdowns, it isn't working. And I love the one gentleman, I think he was from the Henry Ford group. He said that they don't want shutdowns. A shutdown and a lockdown was like being hit with a blunt object. And he wasn't wrong. So what does that mean for us? What they're asking is this. Are you ready? This is an ask. They're not telling you. They're asking you. Look, we got a problem. We have a virus. Think about this too. This virus is nature. And nature is perfect. Not always nice, but perfect. So we've got this virus that in the spring we hid from. And guess what? It waited. Why? Because it's perfect. Now, we got a lot of sick people with this virus. And maybe not a lot of deaths, as many as before. Please don't hear me as insensitive. You know, we're just having a conversation here. So we don't want our hospitals overrun because the employees are fatigued and wiped out. They're doing the best they can, but let's us be respectful. We have some responsibility here, ladies and gentlemen. We always have, but since it's an ask, maybe we can change some of our attitude. So what they're asking people to do is to social distance. Wash your hands. Wear a mask. I'll add, if you're willing and able. I'm not for mandates. If you're willing and able, wear a mask. And here's the key. Avoid large social gatherings. It's not going to the grocery store. It's not going to the bowling alley. It's not going to work. Where they're seeing the infections are from personal social gatherings. And why? It makes sense. Because when people are in social gatherings, they feel safer. Because well, I know Joe wouldn't have the COVID, right? And so masks come off, if you're willing and able. Social distancing isn't that big a deal. And sanitizing might also go away. So what they're asking us to do, especially heading into the fall and into the holiday season, is please keep your gatherings small and intimate for this holiday season. Now, it's an ask. If you go and do whatever you're going to do, it's what it is. But what they're doing is they're asking. And I think that is massively huge. That is a game changer from what we've heard from other individuals whose name I won't mention. And I loved the Henry Ford guy saying, no, lockdowns, they're like getting hit with a blunt object. And so are mandates. So as we move forward here, I think the key is you're not going to have 100% compliance. We're talking with people, folks, about people. But if we all take some personal responsibility in this and know that the infection is not necessarily the grocery store, it's not necessarily at the retail store when you go in and you freak out because somebody might not be doing something exactly what you want. The biggest problem is when you come home or you go to that social gathering. That's where we are having a problem. So let's all know that. So in theory, you walk down the street and you see somebody not wearing a mask. But when you go to that social gathering that's more intimate and you pop that mask off or you don't social distance, that's where there's a problem. Now, you can use that information as you see fit. It's an ask. And that's what I think is massive. So a couple other just things here. 40%, they said about 40% of the people who have COVID don't show the symptoms. And that's another reason why you might be at Uncle Charlie's house having a great time with 10 or 12 or 15 people and nobody's showing any symptoms, but they have it. All right? So I can go on and on and on. Watch, if you got an hour, watch the link that I posted just prior to this live shot. It is enlightening. And again, I think everybody in this whole COVID battle is well-intentioned. But human nature, such as it is, and that's where I have said we have not handled our response properly. We've not used common sense. We've not looked at the whole patient. We've been so laser focused, and we have to realize that government doesn't rule the people. In the United States of America, government is supposed to help guide. And so I hope moving forward, I'll just say it, I hope the governor can use this approach and stop with the blunt object and start asking people to do it. Because I think that will go a long way. Now, I don't know, I see all these comments popping up here, and I'm not even going to read them tonight, to be honest with you, because I don't want to hear anybody telling me I'm full of crap. And, and if you aren't going to wear a mask, I hope you know by now, I know I can't make you wear it. And I'm not for mandates. For those of you who think I'm terrible, please hear me. I think you should wear the mask, but I'm not going to tell you to wear the mask. I'm going to ask you to wear the mask, but I'm not going to tell you. And I obviously realize that some people are unable to wear the mask, and I understand that. So I think the keys are here. Understand, we do have a problem. Do understand, our hospitals are asking us to work to keep this thing under control because they are this close to being underwater. Their staffs are exhausted. They are fatigued. Those are facts. I don't care what some website out there says or someone else. I am telling you what our medical people and our hospital people are saying. As we head into the holiday deer camp, as we head into Thanksgiving dinner, let's be smart. All right? And one other thing. Let me repeat this because I forgot probably the most important. Social distance, wash your hands, wear a mask if you're able, avoid social gatherings of any large number if you can, and the most important, protect the vulnerable. Protect the vulnerable. That's grandma, anybody with illnesses, that sort of thing. All right? Protect the vulnerable. They are the leading number in deaths, which makes sense, right? So, I've rambled on enough. Watch the video if you have the time. These medical folks are spot on, and they are excellent. This is not a tell. This is an ask. And I believe people will step forward. So with that, I think tomorrow night, Friday, I'll probably do a Friday night update. Maybe I'll spend time on the election because there's a lot going on there too. But I think today could be a turning point in how we all can get along with COVID. It's an ask, not a tell. All right, good night. Let's keep praying for each other. Good night.